I want to start today's video by doing something together. I want you to take your phone, your tablet, whatever you have to hand, and I want you to open up a social media platform that you use. Or if you don't use social media, open up a Google tab and type into the search bar of whatever you're using the word Italy. And I want you to look at the pictures that come up as a result, whether that is on Instagram, whether it's videos on YouTube, or whether it's images on Google. And I want you to really look at those images. This is what came up for me when I did this same exercise on Instagram. Aren't they beautiful? All those dreamy, beautiful, romantic images of Italy that play so nicely into the story that is told of this country. Now, the reason I've got you to do this exercise is because when you begin your search for moving to Italy, chances are you will use the internet to get information and to build up a picture of what life could be like in Italy. And if all you're seeing are those dreamy images, you could be led to believe that life here is something very, very different. Now, if this is the first time you've met, because I've gained quite a few subscribers recently, welcome. Thank you for joining my channel. I'm Claire, also known as Ms. Britaly, and I've been living in South Italy now for nearly 7 years. And honestly, I've experienced a lot. But I will say, my experiences may not be your experiences, and vice versa, because this is the magic of Italy. No two people's experiences will ever be the same. However, it pays to have your eyes wide open. And so on this channel, I'm very real and authentic about what life is like here, because I want you to come here prepared, because those people who are ill prepared are the ones that often regret their decision. Now, the reason we're talking about using the internet to prepare for your search and the things that you've got to consider, I actually believe there are two fundamental questions that you should be asking yourself every time you open Instagram, or you look at a YouTube video, or you're just doing general research using websites or blogs to understand what life could be like living in Italy. Now, the first question I really want you to consider is, does this particular content creator, person, writer, whoever they may be, actually live full-time in Italy? This is a very important question. Let me explain. Of course, you can look at the beautiful images of people who come here on holiday, and you can get a feel for just how magnificent this country is, because it is an absolutely stunning country. However, if you plan to live in Italy, you've got to scratch a bit deeper beneath the surface. And unfortunately, as a tourist, you're not able to do that, because you're only ever here for a very short period of time. You need to be focusing on the people who are actually living full-time in Italy. Now, the reason I highlight this is because there are some people who spend large chunks of time living in Italy, namely up to 90 days at a time, usually because they either don't want to live here full-time, or they're not able to live here full-time because of visa restrictions. And so they do this 90-day here, and they go back to their own country or to a different country, and then they return back once the cycle starts again. So usually they can come to Italy twice in a year. Now, I will say to you that you might think following people like that and gaining information from those people can help you. But here's where I serve it to you straight. And I really do this with so much love and compassion, because those people often create great content about their experiences. And it is really inspirational to get different viewpoints and perspectives from different people. However, please do not solely get your information on social media from people that do not live in Italy full time. Because let me tell you, if you come here and you spend up to 90 days at a time, it is an extended holiday. Yes, you might be working remotely here, or you might have bought a house here, or, there might be some elements of, stability that you have created for yourself in this country, but you do not live here 365 days of the year. And I really believe that that does impact the kind of experiences that you will have and the sorts of things that you will encounter. So first of all, I want to say, just be really careful about that, because I think when you are here for like up to 90 days at a time, it's very easy to retain the romance of Italy, because it feels like this extended holiday. At the end of the time, you go back to your own country or back to normality, whatever that looks like for you. And sometimes you skip the hard parts here because you don't spend enough time living in Italy. And If you plan to move to Italy, you need to make sure you know about those potential pitfalls, because that is going to give you that wisdom and knowledge when you arrive here to have your eyes wide open and not to be ill prepared and regret your decision later on. So I really, really, really want you to pay attention to that. Does the person you are looking at for inspiration actually live full-time in Italy? And also, how long have they lived in Italy as well? This does make a difference, because I'm sitting here now nearly 7 years in, and I can tell you that if I'd started doing this YouTube channel at the very beginning, my videos would have been very different to what they are like now. I didn't know enough in my first year or in my second year. I really gained more knowledge year 3, year 4, year 5, and so on. So really and truly, you need to kind of glean your information from people who have had like a solid background here. And I'm thinking more than 2 years at least, because you do have different phases that you go through when you live long term in Italy. I did a video all about it. I'll link it up here. But generally speaking, years 1 to 2 tend to be your honeymoon phase. And so videos from people who are in their honeymoon phase are going to be very different to people who have actually started to encounter challenges a bit later on, for example. So really pay attention to this. I don't want you to make the decision of moving to Italy and it be one that you regret later on because you just didn't know all that you needed to know, which leads me into the second question that you must consider when you are doing your research about moving to Italy. What is this person, content creator, writer, whoever they may be, not telling me? Now, you might be like, what's the purpose of this question? Well, it's actually really important because you see, if you're looking at pictures of landscapes or pictures of food or pictures of pretty streets and monuments, that isn't the full picture and that isn't what it takes to live in this country. Is the person you are looking at telling you what it's like to find a job in Italy, what it's like to go through the bureaucracy process in Italy, what it's like to obtain healthcare in Italy, get a visa in Italy, to make friends in Italy, to find a home, to settle in, to deal with cultural differences and, try to learn the language and all of those other areas that you don't always manage to capture in a pretty Instagram post? Is this person telling you those other things that are actually going to be fundamental to your experience when it comes to living here in Italy? If they are, make sure you follow them through to the end, because that is how you are actually going to prepare yourself fully for life here. And if they're not, I suggest that you start to find the people who will tell you what it's like, because it's a careful balance when you start researching your new life here in Italy. On the one hand, you have to take a lot of what people tell you with a pinch of salt, because people will share their experiences based on their own kind of perspectives and interpretation of a situation. But also, some people maybe didn't do the necessary research and kind of as a result had quite a negative experience because they didn't do things correctly as they should have done at the beginning. So you do have to be very wary of people, myself included, when you're listening to content about Italy. Always remember it's very much through the lens of that particular person. However, don't close yourself off to what people have to say about life here, because I was very open to what people told me back in 2017-18 when I first started looking, and it was very negative, it's true. However, it helped me to understand that there could be these potential problems. And even though I didn't thankfully encounter them, as people said that I would, it did give me a little bit of an awareness, and I did start to kind of lose the shine a little bit as to what I thought life in Italy would be like. And that's important, because underneath the shine is the reality, and that is your everyday experience. And if you are ill prepared, that is when so many people quit on their dreams and decide that maybe this wasn't the best place for them, because they just didn't really open themselves up to all of the fundamental aspects it really takes to live in this country. So I really want you, next time you open up your computer, your tablet, your phone, whatever it is, when you're researching your move to Italy, please ask yourself these two questions. Does the person I'm watching or following actually live full-time in Italy? And question number 2, what is it that they're not telling me, because honestly, they are the things that are going to really help you and prepare you for your life here in Italy. And if you're here, well, you're in one of the right places anyway, because I will always share it to you straight, what it takes to live here in South Italy, the mental and physical preparation that you need to go through, as well as what everyday experiences are like, completely unfiltered, without any edits, because you deserve to know the real truth of what it takes to live in Italy and not just a curated Instagram post. I think this is it for today. I will see you in the next video.